Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Wednesday. Happy hump day to you. The market's all waiting for NVIDIA earnings. Yes, that's all they can seem to talk about. I think they're going to be good. I hope. Boy, if they're not, yeesh, look out. But I think they're going to be okay. But we'll wait and see what happens there. So it's going to be kind of a quiet Wednesday, at least quiet in regards to the stock market. Everybody kind of jockeying for position, pricing for perfection. We had more closures happening out in the fast food industry. One of the big franchises of KFC and Pizza Huts closing down 25 KFCs, and then on top of that, they also had to close, a number of Pizza Huts, Burger King stations. We're starting to see these filings pile up a little bit here at a time. You know, when you think about 47 locations just closing overnight, we're starting to see a little bit more of that where the workers don't even know, right? That's kind of the worst kind. You find out either by a text or an email, some of them finding out simply by showing up to work, and there's a sign on the door, Pitney Bowes, they're laying off 1,000 workers, and then Scale AI laying off over 1,000 workers as well. So, again, remember, the reason for the rate cuts, the change in policy that Jay Powell talked about at Jackson Hole was because of worries about the job markets, and we've seen these layoffs. I don't know that I see any more than what we were seeing, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. It's a steady stream of layoffs, Jason, but I wouldn't say it's, oh my gosh, look, here's this avalanche of job cuts. I haven't seen that yet either, but I think the Fed is determined, right, to once again try to save their banks, try to save the Wall Street economy, and announcing that, hey, inflation's just not that important anymore.
Yeah, and what you're talking about, what you're saying is not very severe, but if you compare it to 2022, it's worse. If you compare it to last year, right, it's worse. And it's this slow slide. I keep saying, Joey, everyone's always looking for this big, huge, monstrous collapse that happens all at once. And it never really happens exactly that way. There's always that one big day. You always look at the old footage, right? The old news footage of the big days when things went down. But it's usually a process, sometimes months, sometimes even up to a year. And if you look at this slow slide in this direction we've been going, Joe, it's just been happening for months and months and months. And I think it's going to continue to be slow. I think there will be some huge event or some scary news, item that's going to push this thing faster at some point, Joe. But it's just grinding slowly to economic chaos, isn't it? I mean, I see what's going on around here in Colorado, and it's just getting worse and worse. I don't have very many people in my wife's friend groups that are telling me how great things are getting and how much, I got the big promotion and I got a raise and just economically things are so much better than they were last year. I don't hear that from almost anybody, Joe.
Yeah, that's something where I think that's probably the biggest change is just that, right? It's hey, I'm not getting the big promotion, I'm not getting the big raise. Definitely hearing more people worried about our layoffs coming to where I work. So the employees, the rank and file, are like, okay, things aren't quite as good as they used to be. We'll have to watch it all play out here. Again, we're waiting on NVIDIA earnings. I think that's going to be very I think they're going to be good. I really do. I think they're the winner in all of this. But if it's not, it could be an ugly day come tomorrow. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website, allamericangold.com. And when you think about what we've been talking about this week, Right? We're talking a lot about the Treasury market, right? How safe is it? The announcement from India yesterday that, hey, we are going to de-dollarize and we are going to do it with our BRICS members. It adding to the BRICS payment system. Saudi Arabia, what was it, a month ago or so, changed their payment. They went to the Bank of International Settlements, and now they could, at that point, accept something other than dollars. So up until that point, the Saudis only took dollars for oil. Last week, they announced, hey, guess what? We're going to start taking renminbis. We're going to start taking India's currency as well. Russian, they don't really do oil with Russia, but once again, the de-dollarization is happening at the same time. That's very important for our debt market. And I think that's something a lot of people don't understand, that correlation. I think they understand 35 trillion. Right? I think people understand that. I think they understand, hey, we can't increase the debt $2, $3, $4 trillion every year. But the international side of it is something I think a lot of people don't understand, just how important it is that these countries continue to use dollars. We're going to talk about that. We're going to tell you how fast the debt goes up every day, and so much more. Stay with us. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday. A quick look in here at the markets. The Dow's up 60. The S&P's down 37. The Nasdaq's down 270. The 10-year note at 382. Crude oil pretty flat right now, just about 75.50 as Libya has started shutting down the oil fields. We'll see how long this lasts, but as of today, Libya has announced they have started shutting down their oil fields. Remember, that is a dispute between Eastern and Western, ever since we took out Muammar Gaddafi, Libya has been a mess. They're unhappy. The East, where the oil is, they're unhappy with the West removing the Libyan central bank. Gold right now down 15, 25.09. Yesterday, gold closed at a new all-time high yesterday. Some profit taking this morning. Silver's down 56 cents, 29.35. The dollar is stronger today after the sell-off late yesterday. And crypto, 58,000 there on Bitcoin. Remember, be diversified. Be more diversified. Be smart here. Understand the debt money system, right? Boom and bust, boom and bust. A lot of people are starting to compare this to the 20s, right? Before the Great Depression. I don't know about that. I mean, I wasn't alive, the roaring 20s. We had a huge increase in the money supply, massive, because of COVID. And then it just never stopped, did it, right? It just never stopped. The spending never stopped. So we've been living high on the hog for a while because of that. That's why we have inflation. That's what really inflation is. Higher prices is just a symptom of all of those things. But when it crashes, that's the hard part. And like Jason said, it doesn't happen all at once. You have to have all of these warning signs that come along, and then all of a sudden you get hit with a day like Japan had, where it falls 12% in a day. And then next thing you know, over the course of 90 days, right, it's down 20, 30, 40%. That's what you want to avoid. How much risk do you want here? That really is the question. That's why we've been telling everybody, check out our friends over at Y Refi. Why? Because you get real strong fixed rates of return up to 10.25%, not correlated to Wall Street. That's kind of the win there, right? Doesn't care about Jay Powell, doesn't care about NVIDIA earnings, doesn't really care about any of that stuff. You got to have a minimum of $50,000. You can use it as income, right? A lot of people out there, that's what they've been doing, supplementing their Social Security. You can compound it. You can do whatever you want. Here's the great part. You could start compounding it, and then, I don't know, a year later, 2 years later, hey, I want to start getting some income out of it, and say, hey, call them up. Hey, give me some income coming. You get monthly income. You can do whatever you want. They never attack your principal, and it's really a great thing that they're doing. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com, or just call them at 888-Y-REFI-24. Now, why have we focused so much on de-dollarization, what's happening in the world? Of course, for years, we've been telling you, be your own central bank. That's worked out pretty well. It's worked out pretty well for people. Be your own central bank. Do what they're doing. Because they're the greatest indicator of how they feel about fiat money. Go back to the 90s. You know, I call it the Alan Greenspan era. You know, if you're ranking central bankers, you know, Paul Volcker gets a lot of credit for crushing inflation. Boy, could you imagine if we have to go back to where that was? Of course, we really can't. You can never go back to 10, 15, 20% interest rates because the debt's too big, right? You could do it back in the 80s. There was only $1 trillion, right? We could do it. But Alan Greenspan, the guy that came after, no one really understood what he had. I mean, you literally had to have a dictionary when he talked, because you're like, what did he just say? I don't even know what these words mean. And then you just never, you know, he said a lot and said nothing at the same time. And they lived high on the hog on Social Security. That was a great trick that they played. And guess who they put in charge of Social Security? It was Alan Greenspan before he became head of the Fed. That was his job. His job was to fix Social Security so when we got here, we didn't have to worry about there not being any money. Well, guess what? We're here and there's no money. People forget they overcharged you for Social Security starting, in 1983. And they overcharged you every year from 83 to 93 to 03 to 2013 to about 2018. And now it's going the other way. And then the horrible part was originally that money was supposed to be put in a lockbox. Keep it away from the federal government. Well, see, they couldn't help themselves. And they said, hey, guys, let's create this accounting trick where we'll actually have way bigger debts, but we'll fake them out and make it look like the debt is so small by taking all of the extra Social Security money and spending it and counting it as income. That's why they say there's this trust fund of unmarketable securities. What does unmarketable mean? Well, they actually can't really sell them because they never actually bought the security, right? That's what unmarketable. If they actually had bought the Treasury note, right, that would have been one thing, but they didn't. So why is it so important now? Well, let me give you this a great example. In the late 90s, Ellen Greenspan was talking about we're going to have the debt paid off, right? We had 2 years, and I call it a fake budget surpluses because of Social Security during the Clinton administration. And they said, hey, we're going to pay this whole thing off by 2010, and everything's going to be great because now we won't have to have any interest payments on the debt. Think about it. No interest payments. Right now, that's like $1.1 trillion. By next year, it's going to be $1.6 trillion. The year after that, interest on the debt's going to be $2 trillion. But hey, who am I? And all of these central banks that had gold were sellers. They said, yes, we've cracked the code of fiat money. It's never been done before, but Alan Greenspan did it. He did it, man. Now, it's funny that he did it, and the debt was almost $5 trillion. It was $4 trillion and change. But somehow, he did it. Fast forward to today. Did they pay off the debt? Nope, sure didn't. Everybody stopped selling their gold in like 2004, 2005. No one sold gold in the last 20 years. They're all buying it now. Why? Because they've lost faith in the fiat money. They're like, it's going to be like all the other fiat money. Look at now. They say the U.S. debt goes up on average of $62,607 every second. That's a second. There's another 62,000, another 62,000, another 62,000, another, right? Think about it. Every second of every day. This is what the national debt is doing, and here's the problem. It gets faster, right? That 62,000 next year is going to be 65,000 every second, 68,000, 70,000, 75,000. It grows on average over $5 billion every single day, and that's just doing their funny math. That's funny math. So when we talk about why de-dollarization is so important, why is it important that India said, we're going to start trading, we're going to de-dollarize? They just said it. We're going to de-dollarize. Why is that important? Because the United States, part of the spoils of World War II and Bretton Woods, everybody bought everything in dollars, which meant all these countries had to hold dollars. Well, how do you hold dollars? These countries don't have bank accounts. They don't leave it in the bank. That's for us stupid people. They hold it in treasuries. That's what they do. That's what they buy. Short-dated treasuries. And then when they need to buy oil, when they need to buy grain, or they need to buy, missiles and bombs or whatever else, when that treasury matures, they go buy it with dollars. Well, now the world is saying, hey, we'll take something other than dollars. Really, what will you take? Well, what do you got? How about Brazilian reals? Sure, we'll take it. How about Russian rubles? Yeah. Indian rupees? You bet. Chinese renminbi? Absolutely. Here's the thing. That just means they're going to buy less U.S. debt. They'll buy India debt, Chinese debt, Brazilian debt, Russian debt, right? Because they don't want any part of it. Do you think it was an accident? What was it, late last week? When gold moved up to the second most held asset in the world for central banks, past the euro. These are important things. And when you think about a national debt at 35, closing in on 35.5 trillion now, by the end of the year, right? We talked about it already. We said it at the beginning of the year. That's going to be $37 trillion. By the end of next year, what are we going to be talking about? 40 trillion. Right? Who's going to buy it? And now everybody and their mother is talking about how safe is the U.S. Treasury market. We got more on that next. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday. So you kind of understand why de-dollarization is an important issue. Because we need more and more dollars to be bought. And we've highlighted, remember, Bank of America warned, hey, we're one bad thing away from the markets not operating properly. Then yesterday we talked about the article out, just how safe is the global bond markets, in particular the U.S. And the answer, not as safe as they used to be. Then today, Bloomberg Intelligence started talking about something that is probably going to be the cause. The clearinghouses at the Treasury mark. So that's going to be your big banks and hedge funds. Okay, these are the clearinghouses. They cannot go under. So let me give you an example. A clearinghouse right now, this is over $1 trillion market that is short U.S. Treasuries. Now that's a lot. Now, and of course, you're like, God, they're shorting Treasuries. That must be bad. Yes and no. Because on the other side of it, somebody else has to have a long position, so they have a short position, right? And they make a little bit of money on the arbitrage between it, right? That's the goal. Here's the thing. These need to be settled every day. And the problem now is starting to emerge. And you guys have heard me talk about it before, where I'm like, man, Treasury markets aren't supposed to move like this, right? These big, wild swings in the Treasury market. I'm like, this is not a meme stock. This is the Treasury market. If it moves a tenth, that should be a lot. Now it does a tenth like every other day. It's like it's nothing. Well, guess what? People are starting to pay attention to the clearinghouse market, particularly because the big banks aren't the only ones there, right? It's the hedge funds. The Bank of International Settlements is warning just how big the problem is getting. The clearinghouses, like I said, cannot go belly up. What they do is when the market moves significantly in the wrong direction, they're simply going to put out margin calls on all of these people holding treasuries, which, of course, will mean what? Well, either they got to pay more money, driving up the rates, or they got to liquidate. Either way, the risk now, according to Bloomberg, any mispriced risk, which they suggested should take more financial risk in pricing. So what they're saying is, God, we should really do a better job of pricing this risk. Of course, what did I tell you the central bank is trying to do? They don't want price discovery. Why did Jay Powell come out last week and pretty much tell everybody and their mother, we're going to cut rates? Well, because if I don't tell you and you go on the wrong side of this, it's going to be mispriced risk. They are now warning that they need to do a better job of pricing this risk, and regulators have so far ignored the advice. So think about this. The clearinghouses are telling the Fed, telling the Treasury, guys, we've got a problem here. And it's going to blow up the whole market because risk is being mispriced. And one day the market's going to move so badly that we're going to have to throw margin calls out that we know people can't cover. And so far, according to Bloomberg, Jason, guess what they've decided? It'll be okay. Don't worry. We'll look at it later.
Well, if you're massively wealthy and sitting in a nice position, it'll always be okay, right, Joe? You'll be just fine, right? The people that they are really preaching to, Bloomberg and other news agencies, they can say that very easily. Joe, when you're a multimillionaire and you lose $1 million, you still have the other multi-millions to fall back on, right? You know, if the markets crash, if things go bad, gosh darn, the trouble, man. Now what are we going to do? I got to get that back, right? But it's not a surprise, Joe. This is where we're at, right? This is where we're at.
This is one of the things that I think is a big reason why our central banks, because, you know, you've heard them say, well, gold's expensive now. Central banks are going to slow down. But they're not. Why? Why? I think this is a big reason. This is a huge problem when the clearinghouses themselves are saying, hey, guys, the market's getting more and more volatile, and we don't think the risk is priced right. And if it's not priced right, we're going to have a huge problem. I mean, could you imagine having a day when 5, 6, 7 hedge funds all go under in a single day? Because that's what's going to happen. And if they go under, how many banks go with them? Right? How many banks would go with them? And the fact of the matter is, the banking industry doesn't want to believe that the risk is mispriced. This is, I think, arrogance plays into this, right? Oh, no, it'll be fine, and we can ride to the rescue. I don't know, Jason, but I think this is another big reason why you're seeing the other central banks going, hey, guess what? The hedge funds call us too, you know. The clearinghouses talk to us too. They're sending us the same stuff. Maybe that's why Bank of America, who's part of the clearinghouse, told everybody yesterday, you better start being your own central bank. I hope that cleared it up. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday. Today's special, it's another good one. I love this one. $10 Indians. Don't run them very often. We don't get enough of them to do it very often. I've got about 75, just under 73 $10 Indians. 13.75. So that's less than a $10 Liberty. Remember, we were running $10 Liberties the other day. 13.75, right? Today, I've got $10 Indians at $13.75. That's a savings of $65. You just don't. Every once in a while, the $5 Liberties you can get cheaper than a $5, or a $5 Indian cheaper than a $5 Liberty. Almost never on the $10 Indian. $10 Indian, that is the Lady Liberty with her Indian headdress on. And they, again, didn't make very many of them. People thought they carried the plague, blah, 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 blah. But what an opportunity today. $10 Indians. Less than $10 Liberties. $13.75 at 800-951-0592. And, you know, people just love the Indians. I think they're the best coins that our government's ever made. Losses picking up a little bit here on Wall Street. The Dow's down 100, the S&P down 35, the NASDAQ down a little over 200 points as they're waiting on NVIDIA. Gold right now, 2,510. You know, gold was down yesterday and then rallied all the way and then closed at a record high. I don't know, obviously, what it'll do today, but squarely above 2,500. Every day above 2,500 is just another building block to the next level. But, Jason, I remember the last time Bank of America warned about the Treasury market. I don't know if you remember, but it was during quantitative tightening the last time. And Bank of America sent a letter to the Fed and said, hey, guys, hello, what are you doing? We're going to have a big Treasury problem. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if people forget. Remember, there was emergency meetings. The Fed had to immediately stop quantitative easing. Then quantitative tightening had to go back to zero. And then quantitative easing started and like every day. Oh, well, it's a $5 billion problem. 24 hours, okay, it's a $20 billion problem. 42 hours, 48 hours, like, okay, it's a $100 billion problem. And it just grew and grew and grew. And then, of course, all of a sudden, here came COVID, and people forgot. Well, guess what? Bank of America's warning again. Bloomberg's warning again. We're seeing, look at India. I'm still shocked that just put it right out there, right in their statement. We are de-dollarizing. That is something you don't see, Jason. But again, I think it all stems from this Treasury market. And they're just like, you know what? We just don't want to hold that much U.S. debt because, hey, as soon as a shock comes, there's going to be massive amounts of hedge funds and banks that will go under because they can't make the margin calls.
And then what will America do, right, Joe? What will America do? I mean, there's been some examples of certain individuals de-dollarizing in public. Saddam Hussein. We're going to do euros. Yeah, I'm going to do euros. We have no interest in dollars anymore. And then 9/11 and the Gulf War happens, right? So, what is America going to do? Are they going to attack India if they run from the dollar? And that's kind of precisely what we're talking about. Some major event's going to happen. Is it going to be a widespread war? Because the only way to get people back into dollars, if they're really, really wanting to flee, Joe, I guess is to scare them back into it, right?
Scare them back into it. Why is Warren Buffett? Did you see Warren Buffett sold another $1 billion of Bank of America? Do you think Warren Buffett doesn't know? Warren Buffett's like, wait a minute, Bank of America, they're the ones that seem to be calling the, hey guys, I don't know if you want to know, but there's a fire over here. It's a little fire right now. Maybe we should put it out. What do you guys think? Nah. We'll just let it burn. Hopefully it'll burn itself out. I'm wondering, right? That's the other thing, right? Warren Buffett just announced again today. He can't sell Bank of America shares fast enough. And it's not because I think Bank of America is a bad bank. I think because Bank of America is letting everybody know, right? The shock is coming. They don't know when. Here's the thing. They don't know what day it's going to be, just like we don't know which day it's going to be. But it's coming.
I just saw a long we're looking at the history of the housing crash with Bank of America and their misdeeds with Merrill Lynch. I don't know if you remember any of this stuff about how really, truly corrupt Bank of America was and their misdealings with Merrill Lynch and their little merger. And and here's the funny thing is a lot of all of that sprung BlackRock forth as this mega giant that it became since then. It's so interesting how all these things financially are so connected, Joe. And it's funny because if you're a financial titan, you just jump off one sinking ship and jump onto the one that's floating better, right? And that's what Warren Buffett's doing.
800-951-0592. The Indian Super Sale, $10 Indians, below $10 Liberties at $13.75. Save $65 a coin. 800-951-0592. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. The Indians, right? That was the fractional gold that went with the St. Gaudens. So pre-1933, $10 Indians, private gold. You can buy, sell, trade. Don't have to worry about 1099s and all of that stuff. A super sale today. $65 off, $13.75 on $10 Indians at 800-951-0592. December gold, we got to really pay attention to that. It's only down $8 now, $25.45. Spot gold right now down about $14, $25.10 this morning. By the way, silver $29.36 right now as they're all waiting for NVIDIA earnings to come out. But the big news this week, we first had Bank of America, which weeks ago had already warned about a shock to the Treasury markets, telling everybody, hey, you better be your own central bank, right? Somebody from Bank of America probably listens to this show. I wouldn't doubt it. Be your own central bank. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Period. Your money market accounts, your bank accounts, your stock accounts, they're not safe. Then you had India just say, guess what? We're speeding this up. We're going to de-dollarize right now. And then on top of that, Bloomberg Intelligence comes out and says, hey, the big problem in the Treasury market is going to be the clearinghouses. They're going to be forced to make margin calls, and the answer really is simple. They're like, hey, listen, the other party, they can't handle the margin. They won't be able to make the margin calls. And it's going to send shockwaves through it. You're going to have clearinghouse hedge funds potentially going bust, which then puts the big banks that are in the clearinghouse to go bust. I mean, Bank of America has been warning about it. It's funny that it takes a while for us to get all the data and get this news to come out. I got to believe Warren Buffett has been aware of this, and this is why he's been dumping bank stocks the way he's been dumping them. I really do. I think this is why.
There's a lot of reasons to be dumping bank stocks, Joe, and he's been through he's seen this rodeo, right? He's been in this rodeo a couple of times, right? And if he can short and get rid of bank stocks, and then banks come back. I'm sure he'll buy it before it goes back up, right, Joe? He'll know. And this is why we have you buy gold and silver. I just can't keep saying it. Gold has been strong when the dollar's been strong the last few years. Gold has been strong when the dollar is weak. And now they're going to lower rates. And Joe, gold is just powering through stuff. And all those people out there waiting for the gold to have a pullback. Yeah, I guess sometime, I don't know when, next year, 3 years from now, there's always going to be some sell-offs. But a meaningful sell-off, Joe, multiple hundreds of dollar sell-off, I don't know if that's in the plan for the next months or years, Joe. It sure looks like gold just wants to slowly but surely climb the ladder.
800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason wrapping it up. Man, if there's a shock like this, if this actually comes to fruition, could we see a $200 or $300, $400 gold day? We probably could. Let's hope it doesn't happen.